Hello, this is part 2 of the lecture Psychoactive Drugs and Poisons. And today we are going to cover the depressants. I will not cover alcohol, which is a common depressant, but we'll start with something that is not too well known, and this is kava. Kava is made out of the root of the vine Piper methysticum, and the Latin name means pepper and intoxicating, so it's an intoxicating pepper. And kava was historically grown only in the Pacific Islands of Hawaii, and it's a small scrub which is in the same genus as black pepper, and only the dried kava roots or rhizomes are used to prepare an intoxicating beverage that has been consumed for thousands of years. And this beverage is a mix out of a sedative, anesthetic, but also has some euphoriant properties. So it makes, in small quantities, people relaxed and friendly, and unlike alcohol, it doesn't impair the mental alertness. The main reason for using kava was to build a community and to avoid conflict. So it is a ceremonial drink to welcome visitors and to help people reach consensus on potentially controversial decisions. Traditionally, unmarried young women or girls would chew small pieces of the root until the fibers were completely broken down, and then they would spit the remaining parts into a ceremonial bowl, and then water was added, and then this kind of tea was strained, and then the beverage was consumed. Now this preparation has changed. Nowadays the root is ground, mixed with water, and then filtered. The active ingredients are kava lactones. They are an ester which is formed between a reaction of an acid and an alcohol. As I mentioned before, it's a mild anesthetic and also function as a tranquilizer. As a medical important plant, the kava is used to produce relaxation and sleep, and it can be purchased in some health food stores. In Germany, the extract actually has been used as an anti-anxiety medicine. The next plant on our list is the opium poppy, Papaver somniferum. The main producers of opium for medical purposes and poppy-based drugs, such as morphine or codeine, are Tasmania, which belongs to Australia, Turkey, and India. Opium poppy has a long history as a medical plant. Egyptian writings already attest to its sleep-inducing properties. Several Greek philosophers and physicians like Hippocrates endorsed its use. After pollination, the ovary of the opium poppy matures into a capsule. So this becomes the seed capsule. And then when the seed capsule is slit while it's still green, it will release a milky substance, which is a type of latex, which contains potent alkaloids. Then this dried latex is harvested. This will become the crude opium. If the milky latex is allowed to be exposed to UV light, the morphine or opium content is lowered and the codeine content actually becomes higher. But the opium poppy is not only valued for the opium, it is also a valuable seed which we use to top breads or bagels. I'm not sure if you know that, and it's actually not an urban myth. The consumption of poppy seed bagels or poppy containing pastries can actually lead to a positive test for opiates. In Western medicine, opium became commonly used as laudanum, which is a mix out of alcohol and opium, and it was not only consumed as a medicine but also as a mind-expanding drug. If you take a look at the history, you might have heard of the Opium Wars. Opium use is directly tied to the history of China, and the Chinese knew opium for centuries but used it mainly for medicinal purposes. Now, when the British started to trade with China, they had to pay for their wares in silver. There was an imbalance in the trade between Great Britain and China, so the British bought more from China. To stop the drain of silver from Great Britain towards China, the British used the opium that was cultivated in India under the auspices of the British East India Company and sold this opium to the Chinese. This increased the opium addiction in China until the Chinese government tried to stop the opium trade. Now, this then led to the Opium Wars, when the British retaliated by sending warships and started the Opium War in 1839, which lasted about 3 years. 10 years later, a second Opium War took place and included other European countries as well. The British opium trade stopped after 1913, when the moral pressure both inside China and Britain brought an end to the trading war. Now, by this time, China actually started cultivating its own poppies, and about 25% of the Chinese population was addicted. There have been more than 20 alkaloids identified in opium, and morphine and codeine are probably the most significant. Morphine was first isolated in 1806 by the German scientist Friedrich Serturner, who named this compound after Morpheus, the Greek god of dreams. One of the derivatives of morphine is diamorphine. You might know it under its name heroin. Diamorphine was first synthesized in the late 1800s by Oliver Wright, an English chemist who worked at a hospital. But then in the early 1900s, the chemist Felix Hoffmann, who worked for Bayer, the biopharmaceutical company in Elberfeld, Germany, he was supposed to make codeine, but accidentally developed heroin. And it was developed chiefly as a morphine substitute for cough suppressants because they assumed that it did not have any of the addictive side effects. Now, it turned out that not was it only much stronger than morphine, but it was also very addictive. In the early 1920s, the United States Congress banned its sales and importation or manufacture. But as you can see here, so here it says Farbenfabriken, which means that this was a plant that produced paint. Another plant that you should already have seen is Jimsonweed, Datura stramonium. It also belongs to the nightshade family, as many of the plants that contain alkaloids. It has a distribution all over the world. It is not a native plant in the United States, but it's now naturalized. It can be cultivated for its scopolamine content, which is used for to treat motion sickness and also has sedative effects. The common name, Jimsonweed or Jamestoneweed, refers to the incident of accidental poisoning of British sailors in colonial Virginia. There is another name for it, which is thorn apple, and when you look here at the fruit capsule, that is fairly thorny. It's not bigger than let's say a ping pong ball. The whole plant also contains tropane alkaloids, atropine, hiscyamine, and scopolamine, similar to the compounds that we also find in Atropa belladonna. Some of the applications of this plant and Atropa belladonna are similar, and plant extracts have been used as knockout drugs or as sedatives. There's some evidence that ointments were used as a witch's potion together with some other plants like belladonna and mandrake, which are all hallucinogenic. Jimsonweed is often mistaken for morning glory when you look at the fruit, and also when you look at the leaf, it's clearly a different plant.